Well, Coasters, I'm with Patrick Phelps from Minerals West Coast, and I rang Patrick up this morning and said, look, I'm getting some calls about people who are concerned with the increase in the ETS. Now, I'm no expert in it, but it appears that the price of coal is going up for everybody who manufactures food, if they use coal, and home users as well. Patrick, you're the expert. Tell me about it.
Well, basically, at this time last year, the fixed price offer, or the fixed price option, that the government was selling carbon units at was $25 a tonne for a tonne of CO2 emissions. Now that amounts to, I think, a tonne of coal when you burn it has 2.2 tonnes associated with it. So you'd be looking at about $50 for a tonne of coal, roughly. It varies from coal to coal, and there is quite a lot of variation with it, I would like to stress that. But now with the fixed price option moving up to $35 a tonne, we've seen the unit price, the spot price that it can be at on any given day, the last few days, it's gone up over $30 for the first time. So that would be about 1.6. I'm not great with percentages, but I'd imagine that's about a 13-15% increase roughly.
So how does that impact me if I'm growing eggplants and using a coal boiler, or I'm growing tomatoes using a coal boiler? How does it impact on me?
Well, it would impact you on the same way, Bruce, I guess. If you were, let's say I were living in Auckland and I were driving 45 minutes to work and back every day, there'd be a significant fuel component to my commuting bill. And so that would be going up quite significantly, and it makes it more expensive for me to do my job. But for tomato growers, the ETS has been pushing on their margins for quite some time, and this is just going to make it more and more of a close run thing. I mean, no one grower that I've spoken to has said specifically when it would put them out of business, but certainly if it gets up around $35 a tonne, I know that they had some analysis done by the New Zealand Institute. The New Zealand, Henry Adams going past there, just a wee advert.
Which is good, yeah.
The New Zealand Institute of Economic Research, they found that about $35 a tonne, small and medium growers either start to change what they grow, shed labour, or just possibly go out of the industry altogether.
It seems a real problem where the government is pushing them to change to electricity, but then on the coast here the generation of electricity's hit the wall, hasn't it?
Oh, anywhere in the country, it's just not effective. No tomato grower that I've spoken to has switched to electricity. A few of them have managed to switch to waste oil. So if you're lucky enough to have a deal with, say, a mechanic or a fish and chip shop owner, maybe you can switch to that. Some have switched to wood chip, but for most of them, there's just not enough wood. I mean, it was interesting. I saw some comments from our Honourable Climate Change Minister that there are alternatives available, and that is sort of evocative of that line when the peasants were starving because they couldn't get bread, being told to go and eat cake. There just are no alternatives for coal. Look, it's not a perfect world. In an ideal world, you wouldn't have to have something with emissions to get your energy resource, but you do. You have to cut throats to get meat, you have to burn things to get heat, and you have to, dairy farms, they've got, things with calving and that sort of stuff, but it's just a reality of the way the world is. You just can't change it. It would be, how would you put it? It would be ignorant or negligent to assume that everything can just be perfect. There's a cost to everything, but you look at, say, you've got Westland Milk Factory behind us here. They are absolutely reliant on coal. That is true for every single dairy factory in the South Island, except one down in Southland that makes cheese, which doesn't have the same temperature requirements. If you take that fuel away, they would just completely shut down. And then the result of that is that we at the moment send the most emissions efficient dairy and meat products out to the world. If we can't do that, then is the world's climate any better off? I would say that it's probably not.
Yeah, Patrick, one of the things that worries me is you tie that in with the drive by government to reduce people using coal in their fires at home. We saw it in the paper last night, and you tie that in, you tie the increased price of coal, and most of the guys digging have put their price up by $30 in the last week. $30 a tonne. That's going to have a huge impact on probably the wrong people, probably the people who can't afford it.
Yeah, it's funny because the people who burn the most coal can probably afford to put up with this for the longest, but the people who burn the least, your mum and dad hothouse operations, or as you say, you could have, for example, pensioners up in Westport who aren't exactly flush with cash. The cheapest way for them to heat their home may just be to get some local bullock coal, and without say, Huntly power plant burning coal, we'd have power cuts all across the country through winter, or when there's a shortage of water through our hydro dams. So people in any part of the country, if they're heating their home with electricity, they're burning coal to keep themselves warm as well. But you're making it impossible, basically. If some of these rules go through, like they're proposing with the air quality standards, people won't be able to heat themselves with coal in the winter, and they just don't have the money to possibly get heat pumps or run their houses on electricity.
And can you put the price of, say, eggplant or tomatoes, can you just put it up to cover that extra cost?
It's quite funny, because I can remember only about 5 years ago, one of the huge issues, one election that was being talked about a lot by some of the people who are part of the coalition now, was the cost of food. The cost of food's getting too expensive, people can't afford it, etc, etc. The cost of food is going to go either through the roof if they keep putting these costs up. New Zealanders won't be able to, or they either won't be able or won't be willing to pay for that. But like everything we do in a global economy now, we'll just import it if it's cheaper. It'll come from suppliers overseas who use just as much, if not more, fossil fuel to produce these products. And even better, we'll be putting it on a plane and flying it over here to get fresh fruit and vegetables. So if you think that's going to make the world's climate any better off and us any richer, I'd just be very sceptical that that's going to be the case.
Is it true that we import coal to run the power station in the North Island?
Yeah, we do, but to be frank, it would be quite difficult to get South Island coal up there at a cost-effective rate, given the inefficiencies with, say, Kiwi Rail and some of our shipping situations. So the cheapest way for, with a lot of the North Island coal fields starting to get a bit worked out, it is cheaper for them to get, Indonesian coal in there to run Genesis's Huntly power station. And the funniest thing is, if I was looking at it and I thought, right, how do I get that power station to stop burning coal? I'd be making sure we had a hell of a lot of gas to keep us running, but we've got no oil and gas exploration anymore given this government's decision. So I really can't figure out what they're trying to do. I'd write a satire about it, but it writes itself.
Well, look, Patrick, thanks so much for giving us a bit of an idea of what's going on. It appears to me that it's a very slow emerging story, and it's going to start biting people in the back pocket, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the funny thing is though, the government can just tax the hell out of you if they want to pay money for anything. They haven't even electrified their own vehicle fleet yet. So it's a bit rich coming from them. They fly back and forth all over the country. If there's one thing that we've learned over the last sort of 6 weeks, it's probably that they could all stay where they live and just do Zoom meetings for Parliament. I mean, they really don't need to be driving and flying all across the country, but they... The thing I found, you deal with some of them are great, don't get me wrong, there's some alright politicians out there, but some of them just love the trappings, they love the hotel rooms, they love the meals on tick, and yeah, it's, oh geez, if my gravy was this rich, I'd be a happy man every Sunday.
Thanks, Patrick, and we'll catch you later.
No worries, cheers Bruce.